Pokemon Insurgence, a fan-made game that's both dark and fascinating. Besides the return of a lot of familiar Pokemon, Mega Evolutions and the core mechanics, it has a lot of fun new features as well, like Delta Pokemon, that you can see here for some examples, levels over 100, new Mega Pokemon as you can see by the Delta Charizardite, and a fun storyline. And now this season in the Wet and Wild Draft League, we are going to explore these features and new Pokemon. And yeah, we have already done the draft, so I'm going to recap what I exactly got for this season. The Water Polo Wartortles were, of course, right in the middle of the draft. So yeah, we were spot number 8 from 16, and yeah, as you can imagine, it's very hard to get things that synergize pretty well, but I've done my best to yeah, really make it work. And yeah, let's have a look at what we got. We start off with my Mega Pokemon, and I wanted to at least get one yeah, Delta Pokemon, and I've gone for Delta Mega Typhlosion. It's gonna be called Nikola Tesla. And Typhlosion is, or the Delta version of it at least, is a electric and steel type. An amazing type. Well, steel is already a great typing. I do have a lot of resistances, as you can see, with just firefighting and ground being my weaknesses. I do have a double immunity to flying and steel type, and with a 110 special defensive stat, I can take a decent amount of hits for something that's very offensive, because I have that 159 special attack. I think steel and electric is a great offensive typing, because there are not a lot of things that take... I'm gonna think about it. Is there anything that takes not very effective damage from both electric and steel? And I don't really think there is, so that's already great. His ability is a custom ability for Pokemon Insurgents, and it's called Supercell, which gives me a 50% boost in darkness or rain. So besides having a very high special attack stat, in certain conditions I can even get a 50% boost above that. With that 110 speed, it is decently fast, so I can outspeed a decent amount of things in this format. I believe Pokemon up to Gen 6 are in this game, if I remember correctly, or at least Gen 5. Yeah, I think Gen 5, not really sure, but... Or at least in the game itself, we have the entire... Well, almost the entire National Dex. So, don't be surprised if there are Pokemon that's above Gen 5 or 6 in the roster. But yeah, I had Nikola Tesla as a first round pick. And my second round pick, I was able to snag something that really... really balances out Typhlosion's weaknesses, and that's going to be Gliscor, aka Dr. Acula. Looking at the weaknesses or resistances for Gliscor, he has a ground immunity and a fighting resist. Only fire is neutral, but can't win them all. And with this, I do have yeah, a very good balance for the weaknesses I have with my first two picks. Ice and water are his only two weaknesses, and the ice typing is resisted by the Typhlosion. So that way I do yeah, balance my typings out pretty decently. It is a very good physical wall with that 125 special or physical defense. 95 attack and speed are also very decent, so it can be a it is not forced into a defensive role because it does get little burp. Because it does get rock polish and sword stance, it can be in a great offensive set. Hypercutter, Sandville and Poison Heal as his abilities. Sandville is of course banned because missing moves because of evasion boosts has nothing to do with skill. So yeah, most leagues ban it, and Ducky and Daniel banned it as well for good reason. So yeah, it can be an offensive Pokemon, it can be a more defensive Pokemon. Just expect me to run Poison Heal most of the weeks that I bring it, because it's just so damn good to have constant and reliable recovery without without the risk of getting burned or put to sleep or paralyzed. So I think a great first two Pokemon. My third pick is probably gonna surprise some people because it's normally not even a great Pokemon in draft at all. But my third round pick is going to be Spiritomb, aka Spectre. And you might be wondering, why Spiritomb and why round 3? I mean, Spiritomb is on itself a decent Pokemon. 92 attack stats, 108 defensive stats are pretty decent. 50 HP is not that great but workable. Just look at the Rotom forms. They have similar attributes for the defensive stats, and base speed of 35 is just... But looking at his type weaknesses, he does have 3 immunities, which is always great. Poison types can't touch me right now because 1 immunity and 2 resistances make it very hard for poison types to do anything against me. Only a fairy weakness, and Typhlosion covers that pretty well. I picked up Spiritomb for his abilities. Pressure and Infiltrator are his regular abilities, but Noctum is something people that have never played Insurgence might not know about, because it's an Insurgence specific ability, and it can set Darkness with it. And Darkness is a 5th weather type. It's comparable with Sun and Rain, because it does set a weather with effects, but not dealing damage to Pokemon. And Darkness boosts the attack of Dark and Ghost typing moves. And yeah, Supercell will be activated in Darkness, so I do have a Darkness setter in Spectre. I was at some point considering a Rain team instead of a Darkness theme, but in the end I decided to go for Darkness because I've done Rain teams, and I wanted to do something a bit more focused on things that you can only do in this game, and Darkness is one of those things. So yeah, that's why I picked Spiritomb. I do think it's a decent pick at around 3, because there are not many Darkness setters that have the ability to just switch in and set Darkness. Most Pokemon need to use the move New Moon for it, and Spectre can just switch in and set Darkness by itself. The other mon was Lunatone, I believe. And yeah, I did not want to draft Lunatone because Lunatone is arguably worse than a Spiritomb. So, going into round 4, I do have a great special attacker. I have a decent physical attacker and a mixed attacker. And I wanted to have a physical breaker at this point, so I decided to go for Ogerpon Hard Flame, aka Hot Shrek. My second 110 speed Pokemon has a poison weakness, which is pretty well covered, I'd say, because it's the first Pokemon that takes serious damage from poison types attacks, and normally poison is more of a defensive type than an offensive type. A flying weakness, which my Typhlosion double resists, and a rock weakness, which my Typhlosion also resists, and Gliscor takes neutral damage, so that's not really interesting. Not really a defensive mon with 80 HP, 84 defense, and 96 special defense. It can take a hit, and just 3 weaknesses is not bad at all. But you draft a Ogerpon mainly for its offensive capabilities. 120 attack and 110 speed is just amazing. Moves like Trailblaze and Ivy Cudgel are boosted because of the mask. His mask gives a... How big was the boost? I believe it's 50% to both Ogerpon's original typing, grass type, and the typing the mask gives a boost to, so fire type moves. So Ogerpon hits like a truck, and with Trailblaze can easily set up and break through teams. So I am very happy I was able to draft it. Mold Breaker is always great, so I don't have to worry about Pokemon with Sturdy. I don't have to for example, have to be afraid of not hitting ground type moves against levitating Pokemon. Things like that is pretty great, to be honest. Next up, I drafted Cyclizar, aka Spyro. At this point, I had a Defogger in. Damn it, I can't think of the name. Gliscor, thank you. I had a Defogger and Gliscor. Gliscor was also a rock setter. I had a spike setter in my Ogerpon, but I did want a rapid spinner, and Cyclizar was at this point one, if not the best rapid spinner that was left on the board. It has a tremendous 121 speed stat. With Shedskin and Regenerator, it's my third Pokemon with pivoting move, because Ogerpon has U-turn and Volt Switch on the Typhlosion, so building some momentum is great as well. It does have decent attacking stats. His defensive stats may not be much to look at, but with Regenerator it can constantly switch out, and with his speed it can move U-turn out, move or U-turn, mainly U-turn out before my opponent can make a move, and that way is very hard to start breaking down. Of course, I later in the draft pick up Fairy type, so his Dragon typing does not really, his Dragon weakness doesn't really matter because I can switch into Fairy types. The Fairy type itself, just like the Ice type, I can switch into Typhlosion, and fighting is Spiritomb or the Gliscor at this point. So yeah, it's a I've seen it used very well, and did I ever draft it? Not really sure, but it's time I find out for myself how well it can be used, and how well I like it. It's great for my speed stat. And next up, I do believe I picked up my Fairy typing in Galarian Weezing, aka Doc Dimmadome. And yes, it is the Doc Dimmadome, owner of the Dimsteel Dimmadome. Good to know. What can I say about Galarian Weezing? It's a fantastic physical wall with that 120 physical defense. Also a mixed attacker with 90 attack and 85 special attack. Decent SPDF with 70 and 65 HP is also workable. Great thing about this thing is that it only has the 2 weaknesses in Steel and Psychic. And yeah, I'm not really that scared of Steel and Psychic. I do have Typhlosion to switch into both. For the Psychic type, I do have a Spiritomb to switch into. Steel is resisted by the Ogerpon, so right now it's a balanced team, I believe, looking at weaknesses. With Levitate, I don't have that ground weakness I would otherwise have, with it being a poison type. But if I have a matchup where I do fear the toxic spikes, I can always go for the Misty Surge or the neutralizing gas. Misty Surge makes it so I can set up a Misty Terrain. Can also be useful if I have an opponent I am afraid of getting Scald Burns, Thunderwave Paralysis. Yeah, I can all mitigate that with the Misty Surge, which is great. Or neutralizing gas if something has a very scary ability and I don't want to deal with that. So yeah, Galarian and Weezing will do pretty well, I believe. It's another defogger. I can set up toxic spikes with it. And yeah, another mixed attacker, just like the Spiritomb. It gives me options, actually. We are 6 months deep, and right now I do have a Fairy Dragon Steel Core with Typhlosion, Cyclozar, and my Weezing. Firewater Grass has been started with the Ogerpon, which covers 2/3 of that, and I wanted to finish my Firewater Grass core. I wanted a bulky water and something to support the rest of the team, and believe it or not, there is a mon that can do all that, and that's going to be Vaporeon, aka Misty. Why Misty? Because in draft I had a GIF for drafting the Vaporeon, and it was Misty turning into a Vaporeon. I made the comment that I wanted to draft Misty, and I believe it was Daniel that said, "Don't worry, it's Misty. When you're using Vaporeon, it's just Misty inside a Vaporeon suit." So basically, I'm not lying, this is Misty. Yeah, Water Absorb is going to be the main 2 ability, because Hydration is very situational, and if I battle against a rain team, I could go for a Hydration Rest set, but we'll have to see about that if we ever face it, to be honest. Great HP stat, so a great Pokemon for Wish support, because Wish gives 50% of the user's HP stat at that point. So if Vaporeon is the user with a high HP stat and I switch into something like, let's say, the Weezing that does not have a very high HP stat, it would get a high percentage of HP back, which is pretty great. So, talking about Weezing. With that 110 special attack stat, it can also be a special breaker if I wanted to. With just the 2 weaknesses, it's combining well with the Ogerpon, because Ogerpon both resist the electric and the grass typing. Ogerpon's weaknesses are not really covered by Vaporeon, but that's not a big issue, I believe. With 95 special defense, it's just a natural specially defensive Pokemon. But boosting its defenses will give you enough. I have used this as a physical wall multiple times, and it's doing great in that role as well in the right matchup. So, yeah. Right now I have a streak of 4 Pokemon that have nothing to do with anything for Insurgence, so I decided to pick something up for my 8th round that has something to do with Insurgence, and that is Flygon. And you may ask, but why is Emerald something that has something to do with Insurgence? Well, let's start off with his stats. 80 HP, workable. 100 attack and defense or speed, pretty good, especially when you consider it can get Dragon Dance. 80 in special attack is also workable if I ever want to run a special set. But his defenses can be either 80 or 104. And that's because some Pokemon in Pokemon Insurgence have armors. Do I say that right? Armors? An armor made specifically for them. I believe Tyranitar gets one, Zekrom gets one, and Flygon gets one as well. And armor boosts their natural defenses by quite a bit. So instead of having 80 defense when I equip Emerald with a armor, it gets up to 104. And all of a sudden, Flygon can be pretty defensive as well. So imagine me running with an armor Dragon Dance set, with my opponent not having any ice type moves. I can tank a hit, I can set up a Dragon Dance, and I can start sweeping with this. It's another ground immunity, which is pretty nice for my final 2 months, because nothing now has... there's nothing that has a ground weakness besides the Typhlosion, and I do have 3 immunities already. So yeah, the Levitate is great as well. And yeah, I wanted a armor Pokemon that has decent defenses, and Flygon fit the bill. Next up, I normally drafted Comfey and Galarian Slowbro in regular draft, which was a mistake. They did not bring what I wanted them to bring, so in Grace I decided to fix my team up a bit, and the first one I picked up was Chandelure, aka Lumiere. Great French name. Lumiere has Flash Fire Flame Body Infiltrator as its ability, which is decent, especially Flash Fire. I switch into a fire type move and my fire type moves are boosted. His physical side is nothing to really look at besides his defense. 90 is workable. Attack 55, never gonna use that. 60 HP, it's whatever. 80 speed is something I really needed because I had a 30-point gap between Gliscor and Vaporeon. So I really needed something in between there, and yeah, Chandelure fitted very well in there. 90 special defense is also workable, but that massive 145 special attack is just amazing. With Lumiere, I do have another special breaker, which is great because I was kinda lacking a high special attacker. I had Typhlosion and Vaporeon, but Vaporeon normally fitting a more supportive role. I needed something that could reliably deal big special damage, and Lumiere fitted that bill pretty well, so I am glad I picked it up. And after Lumiere, I wanted something that could deal big physical damage. At this point I had Ogerpon with over 100 base attack stat, and I had Flygon at precisely 100. Of course, my Gliscor, Spiritomb and Cyclizar do have pretty decent physical attack, and Weezing as well, by the way. But yeah, nothing over 100, and I wanted more physical power, and I drafted Stakataka for that, aka Blockhead. With 131 attack, it does have a lot of firing power, I believe. It does have some pretty big weaknesses in fighting ground and water. I did draft 2 ghost types, so the fighting weakness is not all that bad. With 2 immunities, with Galarian Weezing in my team, and with Gliscor in my team, fighting is not a big problem. Water is a little bit more of a worry. I do have Vaporeon with an immunity and my Cyclizar as a resist. But yeah, especially Vaporeon is a great switch in. And ground, like I said, I do have 3 immunities for that, so I'm not really worried about that either. Like I said, 131 base attack is already pretty strong. Give it Gyro Ball, which is a stab move, and you hit pretty hard already. Given I have a base 13 speed stab. So yeah, Gyro Ball will do a lot of damage. Also pretty great, I do have 211 base defense. So if I did not have enough physical defense, I do now. And 101 special defense is also pretty great. So yeah, I'm pretty happy about getting Stakataka as my final Pokemon. Yeah, that gives me this team. Like I said, water is a little bit of a worrisome thing for me because yeah, I do have more weaknesses than I have resistances for it. Like I said, ground I'm not really that worried about because yeah, 3 for 3 and I have 3 immunities, so it's either hit or miss when you fire a ground type move into me. You either do massive damage to me or you do no damage at all. Ghost is a one-on-one. Cyclizar, as my normal type, of course, takes no damage because of immunities, and Chandelure takes a bit more. Normally, I would have Spiritomb somewhere there because it's a dark type, so it should resist Ghost, but it's also a Ghost type, so it takes neutral damage. And Darkness, one weakness in my Chandelure, but Weezing as a Fairy type resists it. So I do have, looking at my stats, a decent speed tier list. No really big gaps. Yeah, 15 is my max, and I do have 2 gaps of 15. So, and yeah, I do have a gap of 25 between Weezing and Spiritomb, but normally Pokemon between those speed stats, yeah, don't really care about that gap because you normally invest more in attack or defensive stats. So, speed stats normally kind of negated there. My physical defense is pretty big. Not just because of Stakataka, I have Spiritomb, Weezing, Galar, Gliscor and Armored Flygon with defensive stats above 100. Special defensive stat is pretty decent as well because of Stakataka, Spiritomb, Flygon Armored and Typhlosion Mega. 3 physical attackers with a attack stat over 100, and for special attack I do have 4 with... No, that's special defense, my bad. I do have 3. Vaporeon, Chandelure, and Mega Typhlosion. So, I do believe this is a pretty balanced team for this season. I record this after the power rankings came out. I am at number 11, or no, 13. So I am definitely not the worst team, I guess. But the one making the power rankings... already said there are no bad teams. The power rankings basically go from between good to insane, so taking that as a compliment. I'm looking forward to using this team, and yeah, tomorrow a little bit of a surprise for you all. If you made it this far, you know about it, and yeah, keep your eyes out for that because yeah, who knows what it will be. Thank you all for watching, hope you had a good one, and yeah, keep your eyes open for that first game coming up somewhere between now and Sunday the 22nd, I believe. Bye!